So the first video I did, setting up a quiz, here is the link. There's going to be some other links that show up, and these are going to change over time, but the next one we're going to look at is setting up categories. So I've got my quiz right here. I set those examples, or I have those examples, or the video for setting that up right here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up some behind the scenes things. So I'm going to go up to my course management, and in my question bank, I'm going to click right here. And this is where your questions are going to be stored. Now, you'll notice, and depending on your permissions in the system will depend on what you have here. You'll probably just have the example course. Now, if you want to share questions with other teachers, we can give you a permission that allows you to question share. So you'll notice that the course I'm in is found as, this is the course. It's found in the Pella Christian High School folder, which is found in the Pella Christian folder, which is found in the Heartland AEA folder, which is found in the course folder. So this is just the structure of how courses are stored here. So we can give you access to like the Pella Christian High School folder. So you'd be able to put questions. So if you clicked right here, now you're going to write questions in this category or in this folder, and other people will have access to that folder. Now you can also have, I believe you guys also have it set up with like disciplines are between these two. So biology teachers could share question bank folders, and then everybody could pull from those common folders. Now, that being said, they also have edit rights, so you don't want somebody in there that doesn't quite know what they're doing. But that's a cool way to set that up amongst teachers. So for me, I'm just going to write it in this course. And what I'm going to do here, you'll notice there's no questions. So I'm just going to click create a question. And there's multiple places you can create a question from. Doing it from the question bank is kind of like a behind the scenes. You're writing questions, and then later we're going to pull those questions and we're going to throw them onto the quiz itself. So right now we've made a quiz, but we don't have any questions to put on the quiz. I'll make a quick question here, and I'll also have some videos. They're a little bit older, but the question writing is the same for all of these different types of questions. There's really neat ones. I mean, you can really get into closed questions are pretty neat. Drag and drops, these are some of the more advanced questions, but this is where there's an advantage to using technology that you can't do some of this stuff on a paper pencil test or a drawing test or a submission, test. There's just some limitations, and here's an opportunity to use some technology, and it can take some assessment to the next level. So for this one, we're just going to write a true-false question. All right, so here I'm going to say, is this an example question? Here is where you can give it weight. So true, false, I mean, you're probably not going to mess around too much with that, but you could give if you're going to do a matching question, you might give it a weight of 10. So if you think of there's 10 matches, so them doing that one question is actually doing 10 individual points. Each one of the matches is worth a point. Here's where you get that. This is feedback that a student gets no matter what the answer is at the end of the question. If you remember from the previous video, we could turn general feedback on and off at different points before, during, and after the quiz. So general feedback, you can put what you want there. I'll actually show you a little trick here in a minute. So feedback, if the person says true, so we're going to say the correct answer is true. If they say true, your feedback can be nice job. You don't have to put something here. When I write questions, I don't start by putting feedback in. That's something that I go back and do later. There's enough. If you're going to do everything Moodle can do all at once, you would take a year to make a course. So you got to do it in iterative fashion where, okay, now I got a question. Now I can go in and provide feedback. So for this one, we have deferred feedback on, so I don't want to say try again, but maybe the remediation is this is an example question. Another cool thing that you can put here, and in this example it's not a good one, but I could put remediation link. So, for instance, if I were going to do a Pythagorean theorem question, and I were going to ask, what is the length of the missing side? And I was going to use a calculated question, so every time somebody took it, they're going to get different number generators. Then what I could do is I could find a video. So here, and I probably don't want a full video, but I could do, so this one is 121 seconds. Perfect. This is what I want. So I go in here. You can throw a link in there. Now when a student gets, if they answer incorrectly, they have the opportunity to click on this link. And we can even go one step further. I'll show you this is, you don't have to find the link. You can use an image. So here, let's say I want to use this easy button image. I'm not saying you want to use this one, but, so we're going to save this. And I'll save it on my desktop as easy. Okay. So now over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an image in. Oh, even better. I can, if you click this button, that's the link to the image itself. So right here, I can just put that link in. Let's do that. Let's auto size and save it. We don't want it very big, but. Well, if the URL doesn't work, that's fine. Okay, so now we're going to say 50, 50. The easy button's there. So now I can link that easy button and I mean, you set it up however you want. But my students knew when I clicked, when they took this question, so you can preview the question right here, when they took this question and they answered incorrectly, because you're a teacher, you're not going to get that feedback. But when they answer incorrectly, what's going to happen here is the student is going to see a box underneath this. And the box is going to have that feedback based on their answer. So right here, the feedback would be that easy button. They could click that easy button and it would take them to this video. So you're automating your differentiation. Using Moodle is one, obviously everybody's got their own views on LMSs and which one's best and whatever, but using Moodle to differentiate for students, you can take a whole boatload of differentiation, especially when you're seeing trends as a teacher. You can put those trends into the question feedback. So now you're automating some of that. And obviously we don't want to automate education as a whole, but if a lot of people are getting the same question over how to use Pythagorean theorem, it's not really worth our time as a teacher to go over how to use Pythagorean theorem individually with so many students when the differentiation is actually the same. Now, if a student is continually getting it wrong, they use the remediation and they're still getting it wrong. Now we as a teacher can intervene and say, okay, what's actually going on here? Maybe they're getting their C and B squareds mixed up, or there's something like that. So this helps with automating some of that differentiation. So that is question banks. Now you'll notice that I just put this in my bank. Like think of how many questions you would ask over the course of a year. Now you also want to do some organization, and that's where categories comes in. So here in your categories, you'll see right here, I've got one question in this category. And remember I said this is how it's set up. This is the course level. You can actually go, if you would have had it in the high school folder, you'd be able to do it here too. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up some organization. Let's see here. I'm going to set up some organization in this folder. And I do it by coming right down here to add category. So I want my parent category to be example course. I want my name of my new category to be Unit 1, and I'm going to go ahead and add that. See how Unit 1 is now nested underneath example course? And inside of Unit 1, I'm probably going to add another category. So now I want my parent to be Unit 1, and I want to be like 1.1, and I might call this addition. And I probably want like 1.2 subtraction. Trying to use some, I mean, we all are probably pretty familiar with the units of math. Anyway, you'll notice here, oh, I put it in the wrong parent. So what I have to do, I have to move it down, and now I have to move it over. So now, Unit 1, I've got 1, 1, 1, 2. Now, what I was saying earlier about making sure when you're going to pull random questions from question banks, you probably don't want all addition questions to get pulled equally, because there's going to be harder and easier ones. So what I did again, as a teacher, in here, I put level 1. And again, don't think you're going to just set all this stuff up correctly the first time. You set it up, it works, it doesn't work, you tweak it along the way, and you get it to be what you want it to be. So now here, in addition, we're also going to throw in a level 2. Again, you're doing this legwork so that things can be randomly pulled and there's equity amongst how those are pulled. So you can see there's one question here, there's no questions anywhere else. If I go back to my questions now, right here, this question, I want to move it. And I want to move this question into a level 1 addition. And now when I go back to categories, you can see that question is now in level 1 addition. So we've only got one question in there, but in the next video, I'll show you why making these categories and setting up a question bank essentially correctly at the get-go is helpful. Now you can have 100 of these. And I taught earth science and physics, and in my physics course, I had quite a few organization structures, but it was so that I could say, hey, from this category, I want to pull 1 question. From this category, I want to pull 2 questions. So everybody's getting a unique set of questions, but the levels and the difficulty are mirrored amongst all attempts.